Life without Rodri in the Premier League is not off to a great start, is it? Because we just drew 1-1 with Newcastle at St James's Park, and I'm not even gonna lie, like it was not a good viewing experience. It was really, really not a good viewing experience at all. I think when you look at the game as a whole, I think Newcastle were probably the better team off the ball. They had a better structure when it came to defending. They had a better press. They were just more up for it, and obviously that's what you expect when you're playing Newcastle at St James's Park. They're a very physical side. They love to get stuck in. They know that if they put in a few, late tackles, a few aggressive tackles, it's going to get the fans off their feet. It's going to get the crowd going, and obviously that's exactly what Eddie Howe's men did. And the game was there to be won in the midfield, I think. And obviously, even with Rodri, it would have been a very hard task to break down a midfield of Joe Linton, Bruno, and Sandro Tonali, with them obviously being three exceptional midfielders, and they all played very well today. They all played their role to perfection. Can you really say the same about the City midfield? No, not really. I think Gundogan was atrocious. Like, Gundogan looked like he should have be considering retirement in that first half. And you know what? I did actually see a meme before the game, and it was a picture of Casemiro against Palace. The game where Carragher said that you've got to leave football before the football leaves you, and saying that that's going to be Gundogan after coming up against the Newcastle midfield. That is exactly what happened. That was so accurate, because he was appalling. His decision making was awful. His first touch was awful. There were so many times where he just took a sloppy first touch straight into a Newcastle player. His decision making, when he picks up the ball after that poor Nick Pope pass and he tries to chip him, even though a striker that has played 5 games this season and got 10 goals in the league is right there as an option to run straight through 1-on-1 with Pope. There are a few other times where his pass into Haaland was just off. He was not good on the ball. He wasn't good off the ball. Gundogan was atrocious today. Gundogan was really, really bad, and it doesn't look good, especially when he's one of the key players looking to fill in for Rodri in that midfield. He did not look good. I think I was very correct in what I said in my last video, because Kovacic was up to Kovacic things and just putting in reckless challenges. And I guess, you can cut him some slack for today's game, because obviously it was up for the occasion. Newcastle were going to do it to you. You might as well go and do it back. It was always going to be a feisty affair when you're playing against that Newcastle midfield, who are very, very aggressive. I think, it was a very typical physical and aggressive Newcastle performance, and that's exactly what you expect to get at St James's Park. I think, especially in the first half, they were targeting Guardiola down our left side, down their right side, because obviously he likes to defend quite tucked in, whereas Walker will stay wide. Sometimes, I guess, kind of. Walker just kind of goes wherever he wants. He doesn't really stick to a defensive plan. But yeah, Guardiola likes to tuck in. He likes to defend quite narrow, and Murphy was getting a lot of space out wide, getting a lot of success out wide, picking up the ball. Obviously, it didn't really amount to much in the first half. Even though the goal did come down that side in the first half, obviously Gundogan skims Trippier after taking a quite a poor first touch. He skims Trippier, makes his way into the box, passes it into Guardiola, who hits a nice little sort of Ronaldo chop, Cruyff turn sort of thing, round share, puts the ball through Tonali's legs, just curls it round Nick Pope into the net, and it was 1-0, obviously. Newcastle did bump up the pressure again towards the end of the first half with Joe Linton executing a beautiful volley on the swivel, forcing Ederson into a save. And the first half wasn't a great performance from City, but at least they got the goal, and at least they got into half-time at 1-0. And I think the second half, again, Gundogan had a poor first half. Like I said, he wasn't great in the game. He comes out and has I wouldn't say worst second half, but he did not improve at all. I think the saving graces of our performance today were definitely Guardiola at the back and Grealish going forward. They were probably our two best players, I'd say, today. I don't think Haaland was particularly bad off the ball. I think some of the chances he had, he definitely could have done a lot better. But he didn't get much service today with, not many people creating chances, and that's really what I expected from the lineup. When you see a lineup where you've got Gundogan, Grealish, Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, Rico Lewis, you don't really expect defense splitting passes, do you? It's mostly keeping the ball, recycling possession, and that's what we did for a lot of the game. Obviously, like I said, Grealish was probably our most threatening player and our most direct player, and that's when you know there's a bit of a problem, because you don't really sort of associate Grealish with being City's most direct player. That's usually De Bruyne, Foden, Doku, now even Savinho. It's not usually Grealish, but Grealish was our most direct player today. He was really rattling a lot of Newcastle players. Although I'd say towards the end, he definitely should have been subbed off when he did, because he was getting rattled a bit. Well, him and Tonali were sort of rattling each other, and I think that you definitely could have seen a red card come in there. If potentially if that happened earlier in the game, there was more time for it to bubble over. But you know, and then you get to the penalty, and I think it's poor from Walker. It's very, very poor from Walker to not hold in the line properly. You definitely could have caught, if you just concentrated on holding a high line like the rest of the defence, you definitely could have caught Gordon offside there. And obviously Ederson, I thought at first glance he got the ball. He probably didn't. He probably needs to get out a bit quicker. Needs to get closer to the ball. And you know, get a hand on it and prevent, you know, the penalty being given. Obviously he gets sent the wrong way by Gordon, who was probably their best player going forward. You know, he was causing a nuisance. You know, having to play as a number 9, because obviously Isak was injured. You know, it's not his favourite position, so I thought he did very, very well out of position. You know, he sends Ederson the wrong way, and they equalise. And I think, you know, City then found themselves again level with a team that are happy to sit back. We know what Newcastle are like. They're very good defensively. You know, they're a very physical side. You know, they're very comparable to how Arsenal set up against big teams. And we found ourselves just taking long shots again. Not as many as we took against Arsenal. It didn't get to the point that it got to against Arsenal, but we still found ourselves taking a lot of long shots, taking a lot of pop shots, and it was the same sort of suspects. Kovacic, I think Akanji took one as well, and I'm just thinking, is this really working? Because, you know, it doesn't. The only two players that, well, no, three. We have 3 players that score from long range. De Bruyne not on the pitch, injured. Rodri basically dead at this point, and Foden, who was on the bench at the time. But, you know, Foden did eventually come on for Gundogan, which was a change that needed to be made. And, you know, he livened up the game a bit. You know, he was making things happen. He was very unlucky not to get an assist for Bernardo Silva, who's a volley, had an excellent volley, and it was, you know, the excellence of the volley was matched by the excellence of the save from Nick Pope. And, you know, I think we need to starting Foden again, because like, obviously, I understand why he didn't start the first few games. He had a very busy season. You know, him, Walker, Stones, Rodri were all left out to recover after the Euros final and their Euros campaign and their long season they had with City as well. But I think we've got to start starting Foden. You know, he's our best player in the midfield. He is our best player. He's our most creative player. You know, I think you can play Grealish and you can play Bernardo when you want to keep the ball and you don't want to get dragged into a bit of a basketball match. But when you need someone to make something happen, you want Kevin De Bruyne, you want Phil Foden. You've obviously got Savinho in there now. You want these players that are gonna make things happen, are gonna take risks, and that's what we've been missing against Arsenal and against Newcastle today. A risk taker, and Foden is our risk taker, and you know, it doesn't always come off, and sometimes, you know, he does look a bit silly and his decision making looks a bit off, but I'm happy for that to be the case, because he takes risks instead of what Gundogan was doing today. He was playing it safe a lot of the time, except that stupid chip where he tried to chip Nick Pope, and I just think, you know, that's 2 draws in a row now, and again, that's not that bad when you consider the 2 teams we've played. But I don't want the team to make a habit of this. You know, that's 3 games in a row. I'm not going to count the Carabao Cup game, because obviously that was against a lesser opposition. No offense to Watford, but even there, in that game, we got lucky because they had a goal disallowed, which probably shouldn't have been disallowed. If Haaland did that in the Premier League, it probably wouldn't have been disallowed. So we did get lucky against Watford in the Carabao Cup. But you look at the Arsenal game, you look at the Inter game, and you look at the Newcastle game. They're all cut from the same cloth. We're having the same issues. We're not being able to break these teams down. And yes, against Arsenal and yes, against Newcastle, we scored. But obviously that wasn't the case against Inter. And we just need people that are going to take risks. We need to start taking risks. We can't just keep playing the safe ball, because it's not working. We need to figure out how to break down low blocks again, because that's becoming a bit of an issue this season. And you even look at the points that we took from the top 6 last season. Obviously, we did the double over United, and we beat Spurs once. But you look at that, that's 2 draws against Chelsea. That's a loss and a draw against Arsenal. That's a draw and a win against Spurs. That's 2 wins against United, and that's 2 draws against Liverpool. That's not acceptable. That's really not acceptable, because those are the games that win you titles. You need to be taking points and winning games against the big teams, and we haven't been doing that in last season and at the start of this season, obviously with Chelsea being an exception to that. And I think we definitely do just need to up our game in big games, because these better teams, these teams that are a bit more well drilled and got a bit of structure about them, they're frustrating us at the moment. And especially with Grealish today and a few of the players against Arsenal, when our players are starting to lose their heads and be a bit frustrated, and we can't let that happen, especially this early in the season. We can't let our season be derailed by season-ending injuries to Bob and Rodri, and also Ake being injured as well, and De Bruyne. We can't let the injuries, and we can't let being frustrated by these bigger teams derail our season so early on. We need to, let's look at the drawing board, figure out how we're going to compete against bigger teams in games, which is crazy to say from a team that's won 4 league titles in a row, but we just haven't looked good in big games as of recently, and I will be the first person to admit that. And I think we just need to reassess how we're going to approach these games, and just, take it one game at a time, and just, keep our composure, and, get back to trying to create as many chances as possible, because we are looking very, very limited in the chance creation department. But that's all I really have to say about today's game. It was quite, it's not a great way to start your weekend. You always hate dropping points in an early kickoff, because it just sets you up for you're not always in the best mood for the rest of the day. Obviously, I'm not going to let it affect me that much. At the end of the day, it's just football. But please do leave your comments and your thoughts down below on City this season, and if you think things are starting to become unravelled for us, or you think it's just going to be the same cycle as every season, where people say City are finished, we're not looking as good, and then bam, we go on to win the league, and everyone says, how can you compete? Because we are in a bit of a worrying period now, especially with injuries and recent performances, and we do definitely need to kick on before we start falling behind teams, because we are still top of the league. And I think even if Arsenal win, we'll still be ahead of them. I think Liverpool, though, can definitely overtake us. So I think, we just can't fall too far behind of the teams when we're going through a difficult period like this. And, we just got to keep our cool and just take it a game at a time. But leave your thoughts on the game down below. Leave your thoughts on City's season down below. Who do you think is going to win the league? Same questions I asked last time. And obviously, if you enjoyed the video, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because a lot of you guys that watch my videos aren't subscribed, and it does mean a lot if you subscribe. It pushes the videos out to a bigger audience, especially if you like the video as well. And obviously, check out the rest of the videos on the channel if it's the first video of mine you're watching. But with all that being said, I've been Nathan, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Shut down cases, they belly dots to the can't see faces, chasing the bad guy chase it. You don't wanna be the one like Ace and like GT trying to turn them out wasted. Aye, tell a bad bitch come break it, body come mad, come shake it, then get back to the basics, bro, done shut down cases, they belly dots to the